Hello and welcome back, treasure hunters. I am Joe, the treasure hunting dad, and today we're going to be looking at some auction buys that I recently made. So I'm going to get into the positives of a couple of buys and the negatives for a couple other buys. And we'll get into, little things to look for if you can when buying from auctions, but anytime you buy from auction, it is a risk. So let's take a closer look. So before I get into the auction house buys, the pros and cons of the things that I got, I'm going to show you a couple Goodwill purchases that I made that recently came in that are pretty awesome. I got some good deals on. Here is the first piece that I got from Goodwill. And this one is a street style, kind of graffiti style, acrylic, looks like some spray paint on canvas. And this one is signed in the bottom corner right here. I've not been able to find the artist on this, but it is in the style of the Kids of Survival, or KOS. I did get this looked at. Dr. Lori actually looked at it. She said it looked like in the style of the Kids of Survival, which was after Tim Rollins. He created this whole movement, back in the 80s, I think, 70s, 80s, maybe. It's in that kind of style. I have seen numerous, vintage street art graffiti pieces like this sell in a very wide range. She gave me a appraisal value. If we could tie the signature to the Kids of Survival, it could be as high as $7,500. Otherwise, it could be as low as like $300. But either way, I only paid $125 for it, so I'll make a profit. Hopefully, it's on the higher side. So this next piece here, I'm going to have to lay it up on the desk like this because this thing is in a massive, heavy frame. You can see it's real thick, very solid. This is painting on board, and it's signed J. Ramirez. I also got this from Shop Goodwill. Paid $191, I think, for it. And I found auction results, and you could see like it's extremely detailed, very nicely done. Great use of color and everything else. It's in obviously like a really sturdy, nice frame. I found auction results and pieces of his sold anywhere from $800 to $1,000. I didn't see any kind of similar to this, like naval battle scene, but I thought it was pretty cool. So definitely a cool find here, and I should definitely be able to make a profit. Those are a couple Goodwill purchases that I made that I haven't showed you guys yet. But now I want to get into the auction that I bought some stuff from. It's a smaller auction house in Indiana, and I purchased, I think, 5 paintings and I think a sketch, or maybe 4 and a sketch. But let's get into the goods and bads and what to look for. So here is the first piece that I bought. Now looking at this, it looks pretty nice. Looks old. It's got some cracking in the paint, and it is held in with nails. On the back, it has these. It's even got a stamp that says Higgins and Bowers, Tower Bridge Road in London. So with all of this, and this is signed G.A. Napier, dated 1874. Now, when I first saw this, they didn't really have any, like they had a picture of the front, they had a picture of the signature, they had a picture of the back. But when I got it, I noticed it just didn't quite look right. And when I took a closer look, this is actually a reproduction. I think that there is some like paint spots on here, just highlights and stuff. One major thing you will notice though is, like, especially on this side, how there's just that line. And obviously I didn't see this, and that is part of the risk when you buy from auctions. They listed this as an antique painting, which it's not, and they didn't really show, more views than, the front and the back. It's even got the stamp on there, which I did a search on that. And, I definitely thought this was an original piece just by the photos, but it's not. It's just one thing I should have looked at, that I will be looking at. I noticed a lot of his paintings that I found on auction, which were selling in the over $1,000 range, but they were larger. So that's one thing to kind of look at, is what size is the piece you're buying, and what are the other sizes of that artist's work. If they commonly paint like larger, scale canvases or whatever, and you find a small piece like this, then it's probably not an original. So I didn't know that they would have, somebody would have reproduced this to the extent of making the frame look old and putting the stamp on the back and everything. But I mean, you could tell, like, there's just a thick layer of some kind of something to make it look old. And if this was at the thrift store, I could have spotted that kind of stuff. But given an auction, you're taking a chance. So I paid $14 for this. I could probably sell it for $15 or something. I'm sure somebody would buy it, but I don't even know if I'm going to bother. So that's one fail right here. Here's another reproduction that got me. And this one is signed E.W. Cook. And when I first saw it, matched the style, what he painted. It matched, E.W. Cook was, I think, Edward William Cook or something. But from what I saw, online, the signature matched. Same thing on the back. It's got that Higgins and Bowers stamp. It just, looking at it in person, it just looks a little off to me. But again, in the pictures, it's a lot harder to tell. It even has some kind of like coating to make it look like older and dirty. When I first got it, I'm like, man, this thing needs cleaned or something. Then when you take a closer look, there's really, the texture that you see is actually that like lacquer coating that they put over it. So yeah, this is another reproduction. I don't think it's entirely old or anything. But again, a smaller piece. I should have looked at the auction results and looked at those sizes. And sometimes, artists will paint on all sorts of different, sizes of work and stuff, and they'll have multiple styles. Other times, they're pretty consistent. So just something to keep in mind. But I only paid, I don't know, $26, I think. I actually saw this same piece on eBay when I searched reproductions and stuff. I found the same exact reproduction on eBay, and they were selling it for like $400, which is way too high. But I could still make a profit off this one. It's in better condition than the last. So here is the last piece that got me. I don't know. I didn't know that they reproduced all these different artists' work or whatever. But this one is very nice. Looks to be a beach oil painting. Very nicely done. And looks to be signed Robert Wood in the bottom here. Searching for him. He's very well known. I just, figured that nobody was really bidding on it because they didn't know who he was. they didn't have, one thing that they didn't have is a picture when I got this is of the side. I don't know if you'll be able to see that, but there are tiny yellow writing right here. And it says, it's basically a lithograph produced in the US in 1974. So this again was described as an oil painting signed, Robert Wood. And looked really nice to me and stuff. And they did a good job in making it, look like an oil painting, especially from a photo. But, if this again was at the thrift store, when I was looking at it, I would have definitely seen that yellow writing, looking the piece over. So again, I only paid, 25 or 30 bucks for this, which is no big deal. And even having like a lithograph, it's in good condition on canvas like this, somebody would still pay for this, just not nearly as much as I originally thought I could sell for. Here's the next piece. And this piece is actually a real oil painting, finally. I got this one. This one I think I paid 58 bucks for. It's in a frame. It's got some damage to it, which isn't entirely horrible, but some of that tends to happen with some of these frames with this like ornate detailing that was added. Falls off, but it's a pretty nice painting. It's signed down here, C. Young, and dated 1905. This one, you can see the back looks different. I mean, it looks older. You can see, the old nails, and they didn't have all these photos again. But this one too also has a very thick layer of dust, which that's definitely a good indicator that it's older, because they're not gonna people that are reproducing these aren't gonna add dust to it. So originally I thought this might be Charles Morris Young, which his work sells for thousands of dollars. This was just described as an oil painting of, pasture or something, signed C. Young. But this is actually Charles Warburton Young. He painted during the same time and very similar, just wasn't as skilled as Morris Young was. So picked this one up for like 50 bucks or so. And I saw his work sold anywhere from $400 to upwards of, $1,500. So not exactly sure what I'm going to price this for yet, but I'll definitely be able to make a profit off of it. So here's the last painting that I got, and you could kind of see a pattern here of nautical ship paintings. So must have been some sort of collection. And when you see that, like a collection, everything looks real. It was just surprising to have, 3 reproductions in that lot. But I didn't really invest too much in it. So I didn't think I found like a huge deal. But I mean, the one painting was still a really good deal. And this one, which is signed Thornley, this is a real painting. It's on board. But this one I thought might be by William Thornley. And his work was selling in the $600 to $800 range. It is signed down here, and it's a pretty nice looking painting. It's in a pretty hefty frame, but again, this is one, if I saw it in a thrift store, I'd probably buy it either way. But these little, when you're looking, these little tab things, they're like not nails, but they're little metal tabs that you find on cheaper frames. That is a red flag for me, because I highly doubt William Thornley's painting would have been held in with those like real cheap tabs. And even looking like at the back, like under this paper, the frame is a lot newer. And even the board that is painted on looks newer. So this was not William Thornley, but at the same time, I did list this on eBay and on Etsy. Originally, I had it for around $600 or $800 or something, and I had it stating William Thornley, and I just took that off, saying it's signed Thornley, because it's still a nice painting. Just didn't want to, lie to anybody that it was a William Thornley. So I ended up selling this for, I accepted an offer of $270. So I paid, I think, around $68 for this. So it still worked out for me that, I made that money back. So all in all, I spent $234 at that auction house, and it only cost me $35 to ship because they were able to fit everything in one box because nothing was that large, and it was just coming from Indiana. So after that, I pretty much made everything back with the one sale of the William Thornley, and the other 3 reproductions, I could try to sell if I get around to it, but the actual oil painting from 1905, I should be able to make a pretty good profit off that. So all in all, still a profitable auction buy, just not nearly as profitable as I originally thought. Well, that's all I got for you guys today. Just one last thing. Anytime you're buying from auction houses and, anything online, if there's any red flags, you feel like something doesn't really add up, always ask for more photos. Especially if it's on eBay or Etsy or, one of those types of sites where it's not like the limited amount of time that you have left to bid or whatever, ask for more photos. That can really help, decide whether or not a piece is a good investment or not. So I thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. We're getting closer and closer to that 1,000 mark. I think we might actually hit it before the end of the year. That would be awesome. So if you haven't done so yet and you enjoyed the content, give the video a like and hit that subscribe button as always. So I'll be back soon with a couple more videos. But until that time, I wish you all the best of luck out there treasure hunting.